to another episode of our ContinuousX podcast, where we try to solve for X in the SDLC equation. I have with me my co-host, Mike Fitzurka, and joining us today is our guest, Chris Reynolds, Chief Architect at KubeCost's. Welcome, Chris.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're going to start off with a question for you.
All right.
The concept of managing financial information is not new, nor are the federal boards which mandates their governance. But FinOps as a concept is relatively new. What does FinOps address beyond normal finance, and how does it relate to DevOps?
So that's a great question. You're right. It is fairly new, and it's fairly new on the commercial side of things, not even within the government. And, we know the government is slower to adopt either on the technology side or the methodology side. Things seem to be pretty well fleshed out before they come in. So what we're kind of starting to see on the government side of things is certain organizations are bringing in these DevOps models, in the form of software factories, and these new methodologies are bringing in to deliver their applications in a more mission-focused way. So ultimately, this FinOps is a cultural practice that we're starting to see adoption either on the side with the SIs, that they're bringing it in-house, or they're bringing it into the actual mission of the application delivery themselves. So it brings together this cross-functional team that is made up of practitioners, different personas, from the FinOps side of things to the financial folks, budget and acquisitions, versus all the way down to like the engineering operations that are using and creating the application on a daily basis. And what it does is it brings this kind of financial control and this predictability and this accountability to the model. So traditionally, a budget was set, and then they'd roll out the application, and they'd have to stay within that budget. And if they go over, then they have to go ask for a task order and ask for more money. This brings into more of a kind of a real-time, kind of an informed, bringing in this information to inform, optimize, and operate to where they are getting, with the right tool set, kind of daily ingest of what they're spending on the cloud side of things to inform them, well, we know today is going to be a slower day, so let's scale back some of these resources and start saving money that way. So it's a new methodology that brings more seats to the table and makes it more of a collaboration versus just kind of a mandate and go do.
Yeah. What I've always seen, and I'm not sure that's fully appreciated, is that, when a developer is making a decision, they could be greatly affecting the end-up finances, or, certainly in an operational sense, you could be creating all sorts of new headaches, but you could also be doing things differently, and that there's different priorities. So, like, what might be the technically most sound solution may not be the financially most advantaged one. So, I like the concept of this because, essentially, if you don't inform the development or operations team about the ramifications of what they're choosing, they're going to make decisions without it. They're just going to make uninformed decisions.
Correct. So in kind of the old traditional model, you go and buy a server with, say 32 gigs of memory. You've paid for that 32 gigs. You got to write it down in terms of your cost over time. And with this adoption of this cloud model, say a developer requests a gig, you're going to pay for that gig. Even if they use 100 megs, you're still end up paying for that cost. So that kind of brings in that optimization phase, which rolls into the operational phase of things where you're going to start making these daily decisions of, well, we know that this week's going to be a quieter week based upon, if it's like healthcare related in terms of like open enrollment, we're going to need this peak and valley. We're going to peak more and we're going to valley more. So when you start valuing, you recoup those costs, start making those decisions to be more fiduciary responsible with taxpayer money at the end of the day, but still allowing this, not getting in the way of the mission. So it kind of helps bring in architectural decisions based upon the current climate, not what was, in an RFP 2 years ago.
Well, you hit on the one comment that every time I bring one up about the, fiscal management for taxpayers' money. So thank you, Chris, for doing that. I also, I think Mike and I have experience with, creating new projects from scratch, and it gets you, if you have the right cost model and cost configuration automation set up front, it gets you to the point of providing value quicker. Because you don't have to do a lot of estimates, as you said, 32 gig, 64 gig, et cetera, and then evaluating all the different hosts that you got to manage that constitute your application. So I think it allows you to hit the ground running faster.
It does. It's a crawling, walking, and running thing, this adoption. It's fairly new, obviously. It's fairly new for the government and the SIs themselves. So the SIs are building these practices internally. Everybody is really at this stage at a crawling pace. It's more of a reactive of, we spiked yesterday and we have a really large bill. We got to figure out, how do I account for that overrun for the next day, for the next week, whatever that kind of sprint cycle is. So in that crawling stage, it's very reactionary versus where you move into running. You're kind of in a symbiotic relationship of the circle of the informing, optimizing, and operating, to where the informing decisions in a daily scrum of costs from the last few days is, impacting the architecture that going forward. Things today with, continuous ATO, you're never set in stone anymore. You're always evolving. You're always changing. So this model really helps with that and bringing this, practice in of staying within, your boundaries and your swim lane.
Well, terrific. I think you killed that question, Chris. So thanks, Chris, for your input, and thank you for listening. Join us for our next episode with Chris as we further discuss Kubernetes cost management and to avoid cloud and DevSecOps sticker shock when solving for X in the SDLC equation.